All right, welcome back, everyone. Today we're doing something a little different.
Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna deep dive into just one source this time.
okay.
It's this really interesting conversation with a doctor, a medical expert, and it's all about cholesterol.
Cholesterol, huh?
Yeah, and this is going to be a challenging one, I think, for a lot of people listening,
Great.
because this expert really throws out some of the things we think we know about cholesterol.
Yeah, okay. I'm intrigued already.
Yeah, so get ready for some big aha moments, I think.
I like aha moments.
So to kick things off, this expert says something pretty bold right at the beginning.
Okay.
He says, cholesterol is the molecule that differentiates the plant kingdom from the animal kingdom.
Whoa, that's a big statement.
Right. I mean, that's a huge idea to start with.
Yeah, it is.
And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense.
How so?
Well, think about how plants, they bend in the wind.
Yeah,
They kind of just move with it, right?
right.
But animals, we hold our shape,
We do.
and that structure, that firmness, comes from cholesterol.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a building block of animal cells.
So basically, without cholesterol, we wouldn't even be animals.
That's what he's saying, yeah.
Huh.
Pretty wild when you think about it like that.
It is.
Instead of this, evil thing we're told to avoid, it's actually essential for us to even exist as animals.
So it's more friend than foe.
It seems that way, at least according to this expert.
Okay, I'm curious to hear more.
And it gets even more interesting. Did you know that 25% of our brains are actually made of cholesterol?
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah, and 50% of the white matter in our nerves is cholesterol, too.
Wow, so it's like deeply ingrained in our nervous system.
Exactly. Not just floating around causing trouble like we're often told.
Right, right.
And to really drive home how important cholesterol is, this expert points out that it's one of only 3 molecules that our bodies make sure to create every single day.
That's interesting.
Alongside DNA and fatty acids, that's pretty
Uh-huh.
elite company.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is. So we're talking like essential for life kind of stuff.
exactly. And it makes you wonder why we've been told to be so afraid of it for so long, right?
Seriously, it's like a complete 180 from what we usually hear.
Okay, now are you ready for something even more controversial?
Oh boy, bring it on.
This expert, he challenges the Mediterranean diet.
Wait, what? The Mediterranean
I
diet.
know, right? It's like practically worshipped for its health benefits.
Exactly. Everyone says it's the gold standard.
But he brings up some statistics about diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease in Spain.
Spain.
Hmm.
But isn't that like the heart of the Mediterranean?
You'd think, right? He actually calls the Spanish population a sick people who live a long time.
Oh, wow.
Basically saying that while they might live long lives, the quality of those later years is really affected by these chronic diseases.
I never thought about it that way.
So he suggests that maybe, just maybe, the Mediterranean diet isn't the ultimate answer to heart health that we've been told.
Okay, so we've got cholesterol maybe not being so bad,
Huh.
and the Mediterranean diet maybe not being so good.
You got it.
So where do we go from here? What does this expert say is the real villain in this story of heart disease?
He says it's glucose.
Wait, hold on. Glucose, like sugar.
Yeah, sugar. He says it's not cholesterol directly blocking our arteries. It's the damage that glucose does to our blood vessels. It's a process called glycation.
Glycation, I've heard of that.
Hey.
But what's it doing to our arteries exactly?
Okay, so imagine the lining of your blood vessels, like a smooth, healthy surface, right?
Okay.
When your glucose levels are constantly high, it's like sandpaper constantly rubbing on that surface,
Oh.
creating rough spots, weak points, and that's where cholesterol can build up.
So it's not just about how much cholesterol you have, but also the condition of your blood vessels.
Exactly. You could have what are considered normal cholesterol levels,
Right.
but still be at risk if those blood vessels are all damaged and rough.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
And to prove his point, this expert mentions a pretty startling statistic.
Okay.
70% of heart attacks actually happen in people with total cholesterol below 220.
220. That's what a lot of doctors consider normal, right?
Yeah.
So that really changes things.
So we've got to think about cholesterol differently. It's not just about lowering the number, it's about preventing that initial damage.
Yeah, okay. I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
But if glucose is the problem, then where do triglycerides fit in? We always see that on our cholesterol tests.
Right, triglycerides. They're our main energy source, basically the fuel our bodies run on.
Okay.
But when we have too much of them, that's when things can go wrong.
So it's like if you have too much fuel, it's not necessarily a good thing.
You can think of it like your backup generator.
It's your backup generator.
Yeah, it only kicks in when you have excess energy, excess fuel lying around.
Okay, I get it.
High triglycerides, that's like a faulty generator causing problems.
And those problems can be serious.
Oh yeah, very serious. He says 85% of heart attack victims had high triglyceride levels.
85%. Wow, that's a huge red flag.
It is. And one major cause of high triglycerides, you guessed it,
Too much sugar.
too many carbohydrates, which break down into glucose.
So we're back to glucose again. It's like the puppet master behind all this.
It really seems like it damages our blood vessels, throws our triglycerides out of whack.
And sets the stage for heart disease.
It's like the root of the problem, the thing we need to focus on.
So what's the ideal LDL level then? What number should we be aiming for?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
But this expert, he warns us about getting fixated on one magic number.
Okay.
He says healthy LDL levels depend on a lot of things. Your genes, your diet, your overall health. It's not one size fits all.
So there's no magic number everyone should be below.
That's what he says, yeah.
Interesting.
But he's concerned about people who are genetically predisposed to high cholesterol.
Meaning it runs in their family.
Right, he even mentioned something called a hepatic receptor deficit.
Whoa, what's that?
It basically means their liver has trouble processing and removing excess cholesterol from the blood.
Oh, so they're kind of stuck with it.
In a way, yeah. So for those people, a high-fat, high-cholesterol diet without medical supervision, that could be really risky.
So it's important to know your own body, your own risks.
Absolutely. Don't just follow the general advice. Get personalized assessments.
That's good advice.
But even with those genetic predispositions, lifestyle still matters.
So it's not all doom and gloom.
No, not at all. This expert really stresses a holistic approach.
Meaning what?
Looking at everything. Sun exposure, exercise, sleep, stress management, all of it.
So it's not just what you eat, it's how you live.
Right, because all those things, they impact your cholesterol levels and your overall heart health.
Wow, we've covered a lot about LDL, the so-called bad cholesterol.
Oh, yeah, we have.
But what about HDL, the good guy?
Oh, yeah, HDL. That's like your cleanup crew.
Okay.
Goes around, picks up extra cholesterol from your bloodstream,
Right.
takes it back to the liver for processing.
So higher HDL, the better.
Definitely. And guess what? 77% of heart attack victims had low HDL levels.
Seriously. Another big stat.
So yeah, it's really important for protecting your heart.
Okay, so it sounds like we need a balanced approach here.
Exactly.
Minimize the glucose damage, keep those triglycerides in check.
And boost that HDL.
It's a lot to think about, but I'm already starting to see things differently.
That's the point of these deep dives, right? To challenge our assumptions.
Exactly. And to help us understand these complex topics a little better.
And you know what? There's still more to this cholesterol story.
Really?
Yeah, we haven't even talked about what this expert learned from his time working in a cardiovascular intensive care unit.
Oh, that's right. He spent years there, right?
He did.
I bet that gave him a whole other perspective on cholesterol.
It did. And it's pretty fascinating stuff.
Well, I guess I'll have to save that for part 2 then.
Sounds good to me.
All right, everyone, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more from this incredible deep dive into cholesterol and heart health. You mentioned that this expert spent years working in a cardiovascular intensive care unit.
Yeah, he did. For quite a while, actually.
So he was seeing the impact of heart disease firsthand every day.
Right. Really immersed in that world.
That must have given him a unique perspective on cholesterol.
It definitely did. And one of the things he learned,
Yeah.
he realized that while high cholesterol can be a concern, it's not actually the direct cause of heart attacks.
That's interesting because that's kind of what we're always told, right?
It is, yeah.
That cholesterol clogs your arteries and bam, heart attack.
But he uses this really helpful analogy.
Hmm.
He compares our arteries to the plumbing in a house.
Okay, I can see where this is going.
So think of cholesterol as the gunk that can build up inside the pipes.
Okay.
It might slow down the flow of water a bit, but it doesn't necessarily cause the pipe to burst.
Right.
So the cholesterol is building up, maybe.
But it's not the thing that causes the sudden catastrophic failure.
Exactly. So the question is, what's the equivalent of that burst pipe in our bodies? What actually causes the heart attack?
What is it?
Inflammation. When our arteries become inflamed, they weaken, they become more prone to damage.
Like a weak spot in the pipe.
Exactly.
And then all that pressure, it just blows out that weak spot.
And remember how we talked about glucose damaging the lining of our blood vessels through glycation?
Yeah, like sandpaper roughing up the smooth surface.
Right. Well, that damage, it triggers inflammation.
It's like our body's natural response to injury, right?
Exactly. But when that inflammation is chronic, when it goes on for years and years,
That's when it becomes a problem.
a big problem. That's when those arteries are really vulnerable.
So it's like this vicious cycle.
Yeah,
Glucose damages the arteries. That leads to inflammation.
which weakens the arteries even more, making them more likely to be damaged by cholesterol buildup.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
And this expert, he emphasizes that cholesterol is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
He says that focusing just on lowering cholesterol without addressing the inflammation, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound.
Oh, wow. That's a powerful image.
It is. It's not enough to just treat the symptom. We need to get to the root cause.
So what can we do? How do we address that inflammation?
That's where lifestyle comes in.
All the things we're always told to do but never actually do.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
Exercise, stress management, quality sleep.
A healthy diet, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. He even talks about getting enough sun exposure to boost vitamin D levels.
Really? Vitamin D?
Yeah, it plays a role in regulating inflammation.
Huh. You learn something new every day.
It's amazing how all these different aspects of our lives are connected to heart health.
It's not just about one thing. It's about the whole picture.
Exactly, a holistic perspective.
Okay, so this deep dive has definitely been an eye-opener for me.
I'm glad to hear that.
It's changed the way I think about cholesterol, that's for sure.
It's powerful when you start to see things from a different angle.
So for our listeners out there, all this new knowledge about cholesterol,
Yeah.
what does it actually mean for them? How can they use this information?
That's the key question, right? It's great to learn about all this stuff, but what do we do with it?
Exactly. So what are some takeaways that we can start using today?
The first one, the big one, I think, is to shift your focus
Okay.
from obsessing over cholesterol numbers to understanding the bigger picture of heart health.
So it's not just about lowering that LDL number, but also addressing all the other stuff that contributes to heart disease.
Exactly. Inflammation, how your body handles glucose, all of that.
So step one, zoom out.
Right. See, the whole forest, not just the one tree.
I like that analogy. What else?
Second, embrace a holistic approach to your well-being.
So prioritize those healthy habits we were talking about.
Yep. Exercise, sleep, managing stress, eating nutritious food.
Make it a lifestyle, not just a temporary fix.
Absolutely. And don't forget about personalized assessments.
Meaning working with a doctor to understand our individual risk factors.
Exactly. Because there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to cholesterol.
Makes sense. So work with your doctor, get a plan that works for you.
That's the best way to go. And finally, don't be afraid to question things.
Question what?
Question the conventional wisdom. Stay curious. Ask questions. Do your own research.
Don't just blindly accept what you're told.
Exactly. Because sometimes what we think we know about health,
Turns out to be wrong.
or at least incomplete.
And that's what these deep dives are all about, right? Exploring new ideas, uncovering the truth.
And empowering ourselves with knowledge.
I love that.
Because knowledge is power, especially when it comes to our health.
Absolutely. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've explored the science, challenged assumptions, and hopefully given our listeners some food for thought.
It's been a great discussion, and I think there's a lot here that people can take away and apply to their own lives.
Now, before we wrap up, there's one more point from this expert that I think is really important.
Okay.
It's about genetics and how they play into cholesterol management.
The nature versus nurture debate.
Exactly. And he acknowledges that some people are just genetically predisposed to having higher cholesterol.
He even uses a pretty strong phrase.
What's that?
He says these people won the genetic lottery in reverse when it comes to cholesterol.
Wow.
It's not meant to be discouraging.
I hope not.
It's more to highlight the importance of understanding our genetic predispositions.
So if someone has a family history of high cholesterol, they shouldn't just give up and say, oh, well, it's in my genes.
Right, because even though we can't change our genes, we can influence how those genes express themselves.
So lifestyle still matters.
Big time. It plays a huge role, even if you're dealing with those genetic factors.
No, it's not a life sentence.
Not at all. It's about working with your genes, not against them.
By making healthy choices, we can mitigate some of that risk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's empowering to know that we have some control, even when it comes to something like genetics.
I love that. Okay, I think we've covered just about everything in this deep dive.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
We've really gone deep into this topic.
But before we go, let's leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Oh.
If our understanding of cholesterol has changed so much,
Yeah.
what other commonly held health beliefs might need a second look?
That's a great question. It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It reminds us to stay curious, to keep questioning, to never stop learning.
Especially when it comes to our health.
Yeah.
Because what we think we know today,
May be completely different tomorrow.
exactly. It's been a pleasure diving deep into this topic with you.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey.
It's been fun.
It has. It's been fascinating to really unpack these ideas about cholesterol.
And I think we both learned a lot along the way.
I know I have. The big takeaway for me is that cholesterol is not the simple villain we've been led to believe.
It's way more complicated than that.
And there's so much more to the heart health story than we often realize.
We need to look beyond the numbers, beyond the simple explanations.
And consider the whole picture.
The whole picture. All right, I think it's time to wrap things up.
I think so too. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Until next time.
Keep those minds curious and those hearts healthy.
Yeah, it really is amazing how much things change, especially in the health world.
It's true. What we think is true today might be totally debunked tomorrow. You never know.
So for our listeners who are maybe feeling a little overwhelmed with all this new info about cholesterol,
Yeah.
what's the one thing they should really take away from this whole conversation?
I think the expert said it best. Don't be a slave to numbers.
So don't freak out about a single cholesterol reading. Look at the whole picture.
Exactly. Focus on building a lifestyle that supports good health overall. That's the key.
So yeah, all those things we know we should be doing, right? Nutritious food, exercise, managing stress, sleep.
Yep, all of that. It's not always easy, but it's the best way to take care of ourselves. It's a journey, not a sprint, right?
Exactly. There will be ups and downs, good days and bad days.
But as long as we keep learning, keep asking questions, keep trying,
To be on the right track.
maybe some of our listeners are now inspired to do a little more research, look into the Mediterranean diet in more detail,
Maybe.
or find some personalized ways to manage their cholesterol.
Or who knows, maybe this has sparked their curiosity about other areas of health where the conventional wisdom might need a little shaking up.
Exactly. The possibilities are endless.
That's the beauty of knowledge. It opens so many doors.
And it helps us make better choices for our own lives.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive.
It has. I've really enjoyed exploring this topic with you.
Me too. It's been great.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery. For me, the biggest takeaway is that cholesterol isn't the villain we thought it was.
Yeah, there's so much more to the story.
And heart health is a lot more complex than we often give it credit for.
It definitely is. This conversation has really challenged some of those old assumptions.
So let's all keep our minds open to new information.
And keep asking questions.
That's what it's all about. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.
Stay curious, everyone, and take care of yourselves.